Golabraganya gana gocha goloruharam Goranga Guru Tamago Pyara Kolpa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namani Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachia Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Hemona Goranga Hridaya Dhariya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangera Namare Jai Jana Goranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema-bhakti-candrika Padama Pumarta Tasmai Jaganmangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Srikuriyat Kripaya Jadi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Rishayustat Priya Janahan Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Rupaka Gopala Raghunatha Brajabala Bapahiman Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Krishna Namamrita Varshi Vaktra Chandra Prabhadvasta Tamo Baraya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Namo Namah Srila Narottamaya. Again and again I offer my obeisances unto Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He's indeed a true follower of Gauranga Deva, the nectarian shower of the holy name of Krishna, radiating from the moon of his mouth, destroys the darkness of ignorance. By this prayer also, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is not just speaking about the Nam Kirtan or Nam Japa of Narottam Das Thakur, but he's also speaking about his Prarthana and Prema-bhakti-candrika, because Anvaya Vyatireka Vyam Yat Syat Sarvatra Sarvada, the Bhagavatam directly and indirectly is just about one topic, which is the holy name. And indirectly then, Prema-bhakti-candrika and Prarthana are just the shower of the holy name, indicating either the name directly or topics which describe the glories of the holy name. So let's look at the previous verse from last week. Sita lakirna koro kalpataru gunadhar taru latta sada ritu soba purnachandra samajoti chidananda maya murti mahalila darshana loba. The groves of Vrindavan are charming with soothing moonbeams. The 6 seasons beautify the forests, wherein the trees fulfill all desires. The blissful personality of Krishna is more effulgent than the full moon, and one should be eager to have a glimpse of his wonderful pastimes. So in our last session, we spoke something about the beauty of Vrindavan and how that beauty is the Brijbasis and their love for Krishna. So it's interesting to me, I've been looking over 2 or 3 different translations of Prema-bhakti-candrika, and also sometimes, let's see here, maybe I can just show you. Mm. I'm gonna do it like fusion. Well, I've been working with this other, wow, I'm having a little trouble with my computer. Just give me a minute here. Here we go. I've been working a little bit with this particular Bengali version, and maybe you can't read this, but the last verse that we spoke about, this is a commentary here, was this verse here. Slitala Kirana Kara uh, Kolpataru Gunadar. And in some of the editions, it goes on to the next verse would be this one right here, Govinda Anandamoya, which we're going to do next week. We're going to, excuse me, it goes on to this verse here, Dui Prema Agamagi, which speaks about how the Gaudiya Vaishnavas want to have one-pointed devotion to the Gopis of Braj. That'll be our next session. But I was surprised that many of the editions dropped this one right here. Not all of them. Ishwar Prabhu's has this Govinda Nandamoya. So we're going to go ahead and speak on that one. I don't know what's going on with my Zoom. It's causing me troubles. There we go. Well, let's try here. Okay, so today's verse is this one here. Govinda Nandamoya Nikati Bani Tachai Birhare Madhura Ati Shobha Dhune Prema Dhagamagi Dhunu Doha Anuragi Dhunu Rupa Dhunu Mana Loba. And this verse speaks about the beauty of Krishna and how Krishna is Govinda Anandamoy. He's a personified bliss and he uses the name Govinda appropriately because it's Govinda who's the giver of pleasure to the cows, to also the gwalas, the cowherd boys, the cowherd people of Braj, and especially the gopis. He's a giver of pleasure to the senses in general. Go meaning the senses also. He's Govinda Anandamoy. He's a personification of bliss. And how is it that he's so blissful? Because he's surrounded by gopis and he's always enjoying various different sweet pastimes. Let me see, sure I have. They're overwhelmed by love, attracted and attached to each other's beauty. And so that's something I want to try to speak about today, which is the beauty of Vrindavan. We just heard in our last session that the beauty of Vrindavan is the devotees of Braj. But here we're understanding more that it's not just the devotees, but it's also Krishna himself. And Krishna, who's Govinda Anandamoy, he's his personification of bliss, and he's surrounded by the gopis. And both of them, Dunhu Doha, they're very attached to each other, and their minds are completely attached. So I want to speak something today about beauty and in particular the beauty of Krishna. And I'd like to look at something from Madhurya Kadambini and how it is that what is the gradual process before one sees Krishna. The poet John Keats, famous British poet, he wrote a famous poem called Ode on a Grecian Urn. And he described there, he said that beauty in truth, truth, beauty. Beauty in truth, truth, beauty. That's all that you know on earth, and that's all you need to know. So in his old English, what he's saying is that beauty is truth. Beauty is absolute. So although I don't think he knew anything about Krishna, indirectly his words were perfect when applied to Krishna. And I'd like to look at this verse from the third canto of the Bhagavatam. This is chapter 25, Prabhupada's translation and purport. Tardarshaniya vayavar udara vilasa hasekshita bhama suktai hitatmano hrita pranamscha bhaktir anichato megatem anvimpurayumte. Upon seeing the charming forms of the Lord, smiling and attractive, and hearing his very pleasing words, the pure devotee almost loses all other consciousness. His senses are freed from all other engagements, and he becomes absorbed in devotional service. Thus, in spite of his unwillingness, he attains liberation without separate endeavor. So, this is Lord Kapila Dev speaking to his mother, Devahuti, about the beauty of the Lord. And this is a kind of mystical subject, just as Krishna describes in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam. The king of knowledge is the thing which is the most confidential, but it's pratyaksha, it's meant to be practically realized, and it's susukha, it's full of ecstasy and bliss. And what is that type most knowledge? It's the form of Krishna. And the exchange is between the devotees and Krishna. So just reading a few words from Srila Prabhupada's purport, he says that simply by fixing oneself in Krishna consciousness, engaging the senses in the service of the Lord, one is imperceptibly liberated. We can't see that. And sometimes it seems like a devotee is not liberated. But Srila Prabhupada goes on to say in Madhya chapter 8, of Chaitanya Charitamrita, that in fact such a devotee is considered to be who's fully absorbed in the Lord and service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They're considered to be an eternal associate of the Lord. So jumping down to the next paragraph, Prabhupada explains something practical for all of us. He says, the deities of Radha and Krishna, Lakshmi and Narayan, and Ram and Sita are very attractive to devotees, so much so that when they see the statue, interesting, he uses that word. It's not a very common word for Srila Prabhupada to use. When they see the statue decorated in the temple of the Lord, they become fully absorbed in thought of the Lord. That is the state of liberation. So this is our process. We want to think about the Lord. We want to see the Lord. We want to be absorbed in the Lord. Prabhupada goes on to say in the next paragraph, here the word vilas is very important. Vilas refers to the activities or pastimes of the Lord. It is a prescribed duty in temple worship that one should, not only should one visit the temple to see the Lord nicely decorated, but at the same time he should hear the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, or some similar literature which is regularly recited in the temple. Should take Shita Pata in Bhagavatam 3:11. It's described that this is the pathway of seeing with our ears. So it's very, very important that we have Krishna Katha, and by that Krishna Katha, we hear something about the form of the Lord. We have some faith in that, and our heart Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyan Kristo Yabadane Vidanoti Suritsatam. The heart becomes purified by such hearing. And then eventually one comes to the point of directly seeing Krishna. And this is our process. So many times I see devotees are shy about speaking about this subject, or they want to minimize it. Sometimes they say that seeing the Lord means seeing the deity, or seeing the Lord means just going out on book distribution or this or that. And that's okay. In one sense, we can accept that. But pratyaksha dharmyam, this dharma means that directly, pratyaksha, you directly see the Lord. We directly see Krishna. It's not a theoretical thing. So Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he famously describes that the devotee is always seeing Krishna. Maybe this is the most oft-quoted verse by my Guru Maharaj. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam chamayi pashyati tashyaham na pranashyami sacha me not pranashyati. Krishna says that someone who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I'm never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So this is the nature of Krishna. Krishna's so beautiful. And Krishna wants the devotees to see him. In the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, in the 14th chapter, in text number 31 and 32, text 32 is another verse my Guru Maharaj used to often quote, Sada Mukharpi Badho Smi Bhaktina Sneha Raja Biyajita Pijito Aham Tairabasa Krita, where Krishna tells Prahlad Maharaj, he says that although I can't be conquered, my devotees conquer me. Sada Muktobi, I'm conquered by devotion. Right? But in the previous verse is a very interesting philosophical point which is made. He says, Api me punakamasya, navam navamidam priyam. That my devotee who has some desire to see me, Purnakamasha, Navam Priyam. He sees again and again my form, which is Navam, which is eternally, again and again, it's so youthful and so fresh for the devotee. And then he says, Nisanka Pranayat Bhakto Yanmam Pashyate Basate, that I get pleasure. This gives me pleasure when the devotee comes and looks at me. We can have some vague idea about this when sometimes young girls are walking down the street and some boys are looking at them, and the girls, they'll comment to each other, see, they're watching us. They're looking, and the girls get so much pleasure from that. And that's why they dress the way they do and behave the way they do. Just give me one moment here. I'm going to just run and close this door properly so it doesn't bang. So Krishna gets pleasure in the same way, in a perverted kind of way, that people in this world, like a young boy, he gets pleasure with the girls who are looking at him. Or there's a famous song in America, what was it? The boys watch the girls as the girls watch the boys as the world goes by. You know? This is the nature of the world. The boys are looking at the girls are looking at the boys. That propensity is there in us to want to see Krishna. In this regard, not so far from us is a small village called Baligram. We sometimes take the devotees there. It's maybe 50 kilometers from Puri on the way to Bhubaneswar. And there's one devotee there named Dashabari. Now, you may have heard me speak about Dashabari before. We'll tell some stories about him. Now, we just found out recently that the lady who comes and cleans our house regularly, she's in his family, and she comes from that village. So we were very happy to hear that, because he's such a great devotee. Her son comes with her every day, and her son's name is Krishna, and he likes me because I give him Krishna stickers. So Dasha Bowery was born around 1790. He was a dark complexioned person. He was a tailor, which was one of the castes which traditionally was barred from entry into the Jagannath Mandir. Liquor sellers, prostitutes, fishermen, etc., were all barred from entering the temple. And later the British made a law, a formal law banning them. Nowadays, it's not such a big thing. If someone just has dark skin, they can enter the temple basically. But at that time, Dashabari and others like him were not allowed inside the temple. If you go to his temple in Baligram, you can see near the altar they have some of his paraphernalia that he used as a person who would stitch cloth and that as a tailor. So Dashabari was very devotionally inclined, and he grew up doing kirtan, hearing the Bhagavatam and the Ramayana and other different devotional literatures. He couldn't read or write, but he loved to sing songs glorifying the Lord, which he would sing from the core of his heart. And then sometimes it said that when he was singing, he would feel like someone was embracing him. And on one such occasion, he heard this Akashvani, this voice, who very beautiful voice, told him, Dasha, you're my dear devotee. I've created all living entities, all of them my sons and daughters. There's no question of untouchability, no question of separation between me and anyone else. This is Krishna consciousness. If we can't come to understand this, then how can we develop bhakti? And it's quite a drama here in Jagannath Puri, where the Pandits don't allow the Westerners inside. And some of the Pandits, maybe they're even racists. I don't know. But I think also it's kind of a drama that Jagannath does, because Jagannath originally was worshipped by the Sabaras, or the pig farmers who are not vegetarians, and in his form as Nilamadav, they were worshiping him, and then Nilamadav departed from this world, and Jagannath manifests himself, and those descendants of those Sabaras, they're the Daichapatis, who the Pandits here in Puri, who they're considered to be low-class persons, but they're the ones who have the right to take care of Jagannath during Rath Yatra and during the Anavasara period when Jagannath is changing, getting repainted and things, and during the Navakaleva when Jagannath is changing his body. So some time went by, and Dashabari and got married. He and his wife didn't have any children, and they just maintained themselves making cloth. And they was very, very happy because he was just worshiping the Lord. But he had some anxiety, Dashabari, because he wanted to serve the Lord, but he took birth in such a low-class family that, so how can I serve the Lord? So during Rath Yatra, Dasha, he wanted to see Jagannath. So he walked to Jagannath Puri, and when he arrived there, he saw scores and scores of pilgrims pulling the carts and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and different songs and things. And Dashabari became very, very ecstatic. And when he saw Jagannath on his chariot, Nandi Ghosh, when he saw him during the Pahandi getting on there, Jagannath going onto the chariot, Dasha became so ecstatic, and he raised his hands up in the air and he says, oh, hey, Petit Pavan Jagannath, you've come out of the temple just to deliver fallen souls. So you should hear me. Dosha kami moladami koroni jadas. Please forgive me for my offenses. Make me into your servant. Mosamo patita prabhu nahi tribhuvan. He said that in all the three worlds, you won't find anyone as sinful and degraded as me. And you're Petit Pavan, so you have to give your mercy to me. And Dashabari stood there for the entire day, just staring at Jagannath, just looking at Jagannath, until finally, after the end of the day, one of the members of his village recognized him and kind of grabbed him by the arm and said, Dasha, we have to return, and brought him back. And so when he returned to his village of Baligram, Dashabari was a different kind of person. Now, in those days, here also today, it's a common thing to for people in the villages to make pakal, is what they call it, water rice, especially during the summertime. And especially in the village, they're very, very poor, so that they'll cook rice, and whatever rice is left over, then they just soak that in water, and then they mix that with some few different spices, some mango leaves and things, and some yogurt, and it's very cooling to the body. And so when Dashabari returned, his wife made some pakal, some water rice, in a brand new earthen pot. Now, this earthen pot was a reddish clay pot. And she put that white water rice in the pot and one big spinach leaf in the middle. Spinach doesn't mean like what you buy from the market for them, but spinach means what they just pick in the jungle around their house, from what we would consider to be weeds. And she offered that to her husband. And when he looked at that, it looked to him, he saw the red outline of the clay pot, the white, and then the dark center. It looked to him just like the eye of Jagannath. And for a few moments, Dasha was just staring, transfixed at this plate of pakal, this water rice. And then he became completely ecstatic and he started offering obeisances over and over again. They jumped up and started shouting and dancing in ecstasy. And when his wife saw what had happened to him, she started crying. She thought, oh, my husband, it must be a bhoot, a ghost or something. And they heard him shouting, the neighbors heard him shouting, and while the wife is crying, and they thought, well, what's going on? The villagers came running there, and they asked her, and she could say, I don't know what happened. He just returned from Jagannath Darshan, and he's been like this. And so finally, one of his neighbors asked him, why you're dancing instead of eating? And Dashabari replied, well, how can I eat that transcendental eye of the Lord? And so then the villagers understood that this is some divine madness. Orissa is such a place, they have a tradition of divine madness, and there's so many divine madmen here. And so they told Dashabari's wife, let's take this piece of spinach out. And then when they did that, then Dasha calmed down and finally took his meal. So his samadhi is there to this day in Baligram, and wonderful, wonderful devotee. So now I'd like to turn to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which speaks about 6 different symptoms of bhakti. This is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1:117, very important verse. Kleshadni subhadam moksha lagutapit sudurlabha sandhananda visheshatma Sri Krishna karshani chasa, which this verse describes 6 different symptoms of bhakti. The first 2 symptoms are symptoms of Vaidhi Bhakti. The next 2 symptoms are of Bhav Bhakti. And the final 2 symptoms are of Prema Bhakti. So the first 2 symptoms, Kleshadni Shubhada, that immediately when one begins to practice bhakti, it destroys all kleshas. It destroys all types of suffering. In other words, if we're still suffering, it means we haven't really been practicing bhakti in a proper way. And Shubhada, Shubha da means to give. It gives Shubha, all auspiciousness. Moksha lagu takrit is the third. This is a symptom of prema, of Bhav Bhakti, that it makes moksha lagu, makes moksha very, very insignificant. And then the next symptom is that it's sudurlabha. It's very, very rare. Those are the 2 primary symptoms, along with the previous ones, that are found in Bhav Bhakti. And then the 5th symptom is Sandhananda Visheshatma, that it has a very, very, Vishesh means a special quality of Sandhananda, that it gives us condensed ecstasy, this condensed happiness. This is a symptom of prema. And Sri Krishna karshani chasa, it's capable of attracting Krishna. So in this verse today that we're singing from Prema-bhakti-candrika, Narottam Das Thakur is speaking about the beauty of the Lord. Previously, in the previous verse, he's speaking about the beauty of Vrindavan. And the beauty of Vrindavan means the beauty of Krishna, and the beauty of Krishna means the devotees of Krishna. You can't separate the 2. And how he's saying in this verse, they're attracted and they're very, very attached to each other's beauty. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains his sum as Madhurya Kadambani about these different 6 symptoms. This is in the 8th chapter. He says, Phala bhutasya ya swadyamano rasaha sasandrananda visheshatma. And he's speaking here about the Sandrananda Visheshatma and how the devotee relishes the rasa and the fruit of praying. And rasasya parama posti ki shakti Shri Krishna karshani ityuchate. The power that nourishes this rasa, swadyamana rasa sasandhananda visheshatma, that nourishes this rasa, it's called Sri Krishna karshani. It's a feminine phrase, that she who attracts Krishna. And when the devotee experiences this rasa, yasmin asvaditam arabhyamana eva vignan naganayatiti kim vyaktavyam. He's looking back and he's giving a perspective now from the perspective of prema, whereas Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and other acharyas also are explaining this verse, Klesha Disubhada Moksha, 6 different symptoms of bhakti, meaning Vaidhi Bhakti, Bhav Bhakti, and then Prem Bhakti. But now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is giving a different explanation about it, looking from the top down. I was speaking previously from the bottom looking up. So now he's saying that when someone comes to the platform of prema and they're relishing rasa, then arabhyamana eva vignana ganayatiti kim vyaktavyam. When they're relishing this rasa, then there's no more vigna, there's no more problems for them whatsoever. Mahasura, they become like a powerful warrior. Mahasura bhakta eva mahadana. Gridnuratya-vesha lupta vicharas taskara eva swabhatmanam api navekshate. Go ahead and put this up on the board to be easier for everybody, I think, too. So in that condition, the devotee completely forgets himself. Just like a powerful warrior or like a mahadana. Mahadana refers to a thief, lupta, who loses, they lose all sense of their discrimination. So if someone's a powerful warrior, they're so focused, just as you may have heard the story about Arjun and the Pandavas, along with the Kauravas being trained by Dhritarashtra, Dronacharya, and telling him to look at the eye of the bird. And then asking him, what do you see? And some are saying, well, I see the tree, I see the mountain behind it, go away. And then he asked the next one, I see the tree and I see the bird, go away. And it wasn't until he came to Arjun, where Arjun said, I just see the eye of the bird. Well, do you see anything else? Do you see the bird? No, I don't see the bird. Do you see the tree? Do you see the branch? No, I don't see anything else. So this is the nature of prema, and it's just like a powerful warrior. With that warrior, he's just so absorbed in fighting and being an instrument for the Lord. Hopefully he's fighting in that way, that he can't consider anything else. And so then he has a kshuda. Kshuda means some hunger. Kshuda samabhavet tat sadrishya utkantaya. Utkantaya means that there's this intense, utkanta means the throat. Utkanta means something which is rising to the throat, like when your heart comes to your throat. Utkantaya surya eva tapayan tatkala eva spurtaya aver bhavatani, bhagavad rupa guna madhurjanya parana asvada means to relish, visari karanai koti chandra eva sisarayati. So when this eagerness arises in the devotee, in this one-pointed fixedness, then the devotee is not interested in eating anything, even if you have the nicest food. And they have this very, very intense eagerness, this loyam, which is the price that we pay to get bhakti. So, let's see. Back to here. So then Vishwanath explains that when this arises, tatra pratamam, labdha para chamatkarasya, when this happens, then the devotee becomes chamak, he becomes astonished. Chamatkarasya bhaktasya lochanayo swasanadharyam prakasati prabhuna. That at that time, Krishna reveals himself before the lochanaya, the bhaktasya lochanaya, the astonished eyes of the devotee, chamatkarasya bhaktasya lochanaya. And when the devotee appreciates the sweetness of the Lord, tatas tan madhuryena sarvanendriyana manascha lochana mayabhave pavartite, then the senses and the mind of the devotee, it's like all the senses turn into eyes. Just as Rupa Goswami here in Puri he describes that tunde tandavani ratim vitanute tundavali labdaye karna kroda kadambani gatayate karnar vidubhyo spriham, that when I taste the nectar of the holy name, that all my senses want to become like tongues. They want to taste Krishna's name. So in a similar way, when when the Lord reveals his sweetness to the eye of the devotee, then the devotee wants everything just to see. He wants all of his senses become absorbed in seeing the Lord. And then at that time, Stamba Kampa Vispadi Bi Krita Vignascha Tasyananda Krita Murchayam. The devotee experiences all the different asasapikara bhavs because Krishna's entered into their body through the eyes. Just as we hear about the wives of the Yagya Brahmins, they went running to Krishna in the forest and they saw Krishna, and then they saw Krishna in their hearts and they were stunned. And then it was like Krishna came out of the heart and came before them, but they couldn't move anymore. So when Krishna enters through the doorway of the eyes in the devotee, and he enters into the heart, then this asasapikara bhav appears. And krita murchayam, the devotee may faint in ecstasy. And then at that time, Krishna wants to revive the devotee. Jatayam prabodhayatam eva dvitiyam sarabhyam tadiya granindriyeshu prakashyate. Then at that time, to wake the devotee up, Krishna fills his nostrils with his second sweetness. The first sweetness is seeing him. And the second sweetness, dvitiya sorabhyam. Sorabhya means the fragrance of his body. And we hear a similar story when, I think it was Raghava Pandit, was in Vrindavan in Bhakti Ratnakar. It's mentioned how he was on Rajmandal Parikrama, and they're going around Govardhan, and they came near a cave, and they heard the sound of Krishna's flute, and they fell to the ground in ecstasy, unconscious. And then the next thing, they smelled the body of Krishna, and they became externally revived, and then again they faint. And this is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says too. At that time, then all the senses turn into noses. And the devotee then falls down and faints a second time. And then Vishwanath says that the Lord speaks to him then at that time. He says, my dear devotee, I'm controlled by you. Don't be upset, just experience my sweetness. And then the Lord appears before his ears. That's the third flood of sweetness. The Krishna's beautiful voice. And when the devotee hears that beautiful voice, then all of his senses turn into ears. And then again, the devotee faints in ecstasy. And then at that time, Krishna comes and he touches his divine lotus feet or his lotus hands, his chest or whatever, to the devotee. And in that way, he gives his fourth kind of sweetness, his tender touch. And those devotees, Vishwanath explains that, who are in the mood of a servant, then he touches his feet on their heads. If they're in the mood of friends, he touches his lotus hands on their hands. If they're in the mood of parents, then they touch his ears and they wipe his tear-filled eyes. And if the devotees who are in Madhurya rest with him, Krishna touches his chest to their breasts, and the touch of his arms and embrace them. And so Krishna, in this way, he touches his devotees in different ways. So this is our philosophy. I'd like to conclude with a few points from Chaitanya Charitamrita and Narada Bhakti Sutra, and also from Lalita Madhav. Let's look in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is Madhya Lila chapter 21. And it's speaking about the beauty of Krishna and how the gopis are relishing it. Gopi Bhava Dharapana. And how the gopis' love is like a darpana. Darpana means a mirror. And my Guru Maharaj spoke about, he said that when Krishna wants to see himself, because we all like to look at ourselves. If you go to a hotel where people pay money to enjoy themselves and have some pleasure, you'll see oftentimes there's mirrors on all the walls. Sometimes they put mirrors on the ceiling and things because people want to look at themselves and they get so much pleasure looking at themselves. When Krishna wants to see himself, it's a bit difficult because the mirror, an ordinary darpana, can't reflect Krishna in a proper way. It just gives a one-dimensional reflection, and it doesn't contain within it the bhav, the ecstasy of Krishna's form. And so my Guru Maharaj said that when Krishna wants to see himself, he has to find a special darpana, and that's Prema Hridaya Darpana. That's the mirror of the heart of Krishna's pure devotee. And in that mirror, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is describing it, Nava Nava Kshani Kshani, that Nava Nava, it's newer and newer, Kshani Kshani, every moment. Tara Age Krishna Madhurja, and they're relishing Krishna's sweetness more and more at every moment. This is the nature of Krishna, the gopis' love for Krishna, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He says that in this way, Krishna's beauty is increasing, Huda Hudi, Bhadi, Mukha Nahi Muda, and Krishna's beauty is increasing, and the love of the gopis is increasing more. The love of the gopis increases, and then Krishna's beauty increases more. And when Krishna's beauty increases more, then the gopis' love increases more. And Prabhupada translated here that it's like both like a competition that neither give up on, and both sides constantly increase. And so this also will lead us into the next verse from Prema-bhakti-candrika, where Narottam Das Thakur is going to speak about the importance of being one-pointed on the gopis of Braj. And we'll hear something more about it. Let's look a little more now about from Narada Bhakti Sutra. This is text number 45. Narada Bhakti Sutra is a book of spoken by Narad Muni, speaking about the nature of bhakti. Guna rahitam kamana rahitam, pratikshana vardhamanam, avichinam sukshmataram, anubhava rupam. That this is the nature, this is the quality of the guna of Krishna Prem. It's sukshma. Sukshma means something very, very subtle. Sukshma, we say there's a sukshma dehi. Deha, sukshma deha, the subtle body, which is mind, intelligence, and false ego. So this pure love of Krishna, it's the most subtle consciousness. And guna rahitam, it has no material qualities to it. It has no material desires to it. Kamanam rahitam. And it's increasing at every moment, and it's never interrupted. This is our goal. As I sometimes have commented, in 1994, when I was with Rasikananda Prabhu, my godbrother, in America, our Guru Maharaj was getting ready to come. And we were thinking of different ways to try to get more devotees to come to Guru Maharaj's classes. And so I had the bright idea that we'll advertise particular subjects, because this was like the beginning of something which is very common now when devotees, they advertise certain seminars, certain subject matters. They've been advertising, they just recently advertised my class for Gaura Purnima. We're going to be speaking about why Mahaprabhu particularly came to Jagannath Puri and what's the special quality about Jagannath Puri, that he came here instead of going to Vrindavan, staying in Vrindavan, instead of staying in Navadvip. So this is the quality of Krishna Prem. Anyway, I was writing to my Guru Maharaj. We sent him a fax message. There was no email at that time. And we said we had this idea, Guru Maharaj. And I also gave a number of different topics, titles that I knew that he'd like to speak about. Srimati Radharani and the Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Jagannath Puri and different things. And Guru Maharaj wrote back and he said, there's no need for this. He said, anyway, I only speak on one subject, and that's Krishna Prem. And what a powerful comment that was. That's the only subject that he speaks about, either anvaya or vatirekabhyam, directly or indirectly. He's only interested in speaking about Krishna Prem. And what an amazing thing in our society where so many devotees are interested, that many of them say, well, that's okay, but you really need to think about Varnashram Dharma, and we should be absorbed in Varnashram Dharma. And then later on, we can go to these higher things. But I was listening to another class of Guru Maharaj this morning, and he's quoting different verses, how this Varnashram Dharma will not lead to the love of God, and it's not necessary. He's speaking from the Bhagavat Mahatmya found, I believe, in the Brihanardiya Purana, where Narad Muni, when he came, and he said in Kali Yuga, he gave everything in bhakti. And it's not necessary to practice Varnashram or other things. In fact, it's a disturbance. Srila Prabhupada, to touch on that, Srila Prabhupada said we should do Varnashram, but we should do Varnashram so that we can be steady within our bhakti, because Prabhupada saw that devotees were not being steady. They were going here and there, they're stopping their chanting and things. And so he said, we should have this Varnashram, but it was never what our acharyas call Asura Varnashram, or demoniac Varnashram. It was always Daivi Varnashram, which is basically Vaidhi Bhakti, conducted under the guidance of Guru. Right? So then I'd like to share with you a beautiful verse, which is written by Srila Rupa Goswami here in Puri. He's speaking about how the gopis worship Krishna, and their worship is a very different kind of worship. Ya pushpavali ganda dupavali bir damodara sevyate kavadbi stuti purvamutamanatisте tavat anhi janaha seva kokila kanti gokula bhuvam yusmadrishinam haro vakra loka kola karambita parimam badi lilomaya. This is Kusha Prabhu's translation. This is spoken by Nava Brinda Devi, and she's speaking to Radharani. She says, my dear Radha, some people, they worship Krishna. Yai pushpavali ganda dupa valibir. They're offering some pushpas, some flowers, some ganda, some oils, some fragrant oils, some dupe, some incense. But and they recite prayers and they fall down. Krivadi bir stuti purvam. They offer different stutis and things. But the gopis of Braj, you worship Krishna in a very different way. They're worshiping Krishna with this vakra, this vakra loka kala karambita. Vakra means something crooked. Just like what is his name? Vakra Muni, who's crooked in 8 different places. So Vakra means crooked. So with their crooked glances, this is how the gopis of Braj worship Krishna. And Krishna gets so much pleasure from that. So this is why in our tradition, we put so much stress on that. In one commentary we came across by what's his name? Anyway, Bengali commentaries, name's not coming to my mind. Speaking on the 84th chapter of the 10th canto in the meeting in Kurukshetra, he describes 3 different purposes in going to Kurukshetra, and how the pious kings are going there with punya labha. Their desire was that they wanted to get some piety. So we're going to go there and we're going to give some charity and things, and it'll be very good for us. But the members of the Yadu dynasty, they wanted Krishna bhakti. Krishna no bhakti asta iti. That was their mood. We want bhakti. This is where we're going. But then he described the 3rd purpose, which is that of the Brij Basis, which is Chanda Vadanatanyara Eka Phalate Darshana. Just Eka Phalate Darshan. If they could just for one moment get a glimpse of Krishna's cooling moon-like face. And this is pleasing to Krishna. It's not that the Brij Basis have some selfishness. They only want to please Krishna, and they know Krishna gets pleased when the devotee wants to see him. And Krishna's been gone for so long, so their desire has increased and increased and increased, and they want to go. They have this exchange with Krishna. As we were just reading about the gopis, they have this kind of competition, Prabhupada translates it, that the gopis' ecstatic love is just like a mirror that becomes newer and newer, and it reflects Krishna's beauty, and then Krishna becomes more beautiful, and then the gopis' love increases. So there's a very ecstatic exchange between that darshan, that seeing the form of Krishna, and the devotees who are experiencing that thing. And now, so therefore, Narottam Das Thakur, in this verse from Prema-bhakti-candrika, in our previous verse, he was speaking about the beauty of Braj, beauty of Vrindavan. And now he's describing more explicitly how that beauty is manifest in particular through the form of Krishna. And we can go ahead and look at this verse again. And we'll go ahead and stop. If anybody has any comments or questions, we'll go ahead with that. Govinda Anandamaya Nikati Bani Tachai Bihari Madura Ati Shobha Dunhu Premi Dugamagi Dunhu Dona Anuragi Dunhu Rupa Dunhu Mana Loba. Krishna Govinda is personified bliss. He's surrounded. This is the beauty of Vrindavan. Krishna's personified bliss. He's surrounded by the gopis, enjoying very sweet pastimes. They're overwhelmed by love, attracted and attached to each other's beauty. This is the wonder of Vrindavan. This is the beauty of Vrindavan, where you have both the Lord and his devotees. You can't separate the two. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Bonnie, you have the coolest hat. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. We're so happy you are who you are. We were speaking some things recently. I'm just appreciating Bonnie. We're reading some things recently from George Orwell in his 1984, and he speaks about loneliness. And it's something I've really been thinking about quite often recently, about loneliness and how that loneliness is even worse when we're misunderstood and we're not appreciated. But then George Orwell goes on to speak in a beautiful way, practically like a devotee. He says, but when we keep our individuality, in spite of the fact that people don't understand us, in spite of our loneliness, in spite of the misunderstanding, we hold on to that. That helps us to become more fixed in ourselves and helps us realize our spiritual identity. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and stop there and just looking who's here. And if anybody has any reflections or comments, I think we may have some devotees watching online also. Yeah, there's 7 devotees watching on YouTube also. If anybody has any questions or comments on YouTube or on Zoom, you can go ahead and post those right now. Siddharthi Prabhu, you have something?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for your sweet, wonderful garland of verses you put on each time on Prema-bhakti-candrika. Thank you so much. Uh, Prabhu, I was wondering that we hear in Chaitanya Charitamrita in Adi chapter 4, there are 3 different reasons why 3 internal reasons for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. And one of the reasons is that Krishna wants to understand what is that beauty of mind which gives so much happiness to Srimati Radharani. Would that also connect to today's verse? And
Definitely.
how would I understand that? Because sometimes I can get confused. There's like reason number 2 and reason number 3, which almost seem synonymous. I'm not able to differ between those two also.
That's the 6th verse of Adi Leela. Let's see, I can bring this thing up here on Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is a very important verse. It's 6th verse of Adi Leela. It's one of the Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's most important verses is Mangalacharya. I like to say that this verse, within this verse is the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita. So let's go ahead and look at it. I think I got it here. Yeah, okay. Shri Radheya Pranaya Mahima Kidrisa Vanyaiva. Kidrisa means he's wondering. Huh? What is it? These 3 different things. My grandma speaks about this at length. And we printed some things from him speaking about this in Mathura Meets Vrindavan and also in Banquet of Separation. The Radheya Pranaya Mahima, the glory of Radharani's Pranaya. And how's Prabhupada translate Pranaya here? Yeah, love. But Snehaman Pranaya Rag. Pranaya is this particular level of Madhurya Ras, which is when the lover and the beloved become one. So Krishna wants to understand this thing when Radharani becomes her nature of her ecstatic love, she becomes one with him. He can't understand that on his own because Radharani's love is millions of times greater than Krishna's. Swadyo yena bhuta madhuri makidisova madhya. And the second thing that Krishna is wondering, the swadya, aswadya, what is it that Radharani is relishing? What is the ecstasy that she has? Now, as you pointed out, this seems to be very similar to the third reason, Sokyam Chashamananabhavata Kidrisam. Sokyam, that in particular, the happiness, the Sokya, first of all, the previous verse is speaking about what is it that she relishes in me. And by my amazing sweetness is a Bhuta Madhurima. And then the third one is the particular ecstasy that Srimati Radharani gets when she realizes the nature of my sweetness. And he says, for these three reasons, the Lord has appeared. So the first reason, to understand what is the pranaya mahima, the glory of Radharani's love when she becomes one with Krishna in the heart. The second, swadhya, what is it that she's relishing of his madhuri, his sweetness. And the third, sokyam, the subtle difference between the two, so swadyo, what is it she's relishing? And then the third, what is the nature of that relish? Swadyo, he's wondering what is it that she likes? She likes me. She likes my beauty. What is it that she likes about my beauty? Why is it? Does she like my eyebrows? Does she like my ears? Does she like all of it? What particular thing is Srimati Radharani relishing of my sweetness? And Sokyam, what is the happiness? What is the ecstasy that she gets from relishing that sweetness? So there's a subtle difference between the two. Does that make sense, Prabhuji? It's a great question.
Yes, Prabhu, it does make sense. Thank you so much for helping me understand that.
By the way, my screen disappeared and now you see my ugly face again and Siddharthi Prabhu's handsome face. Is that correct?
We still
You
see
see?
your screen.
I'm sorry?
We still see your screen. I mean, the Veda
You
base
still
is
see
still
the
there.
screen. Okay, that's what I was wondering. So let's see, because I've got this beautiful big monitor which Jai Gore got from me, but it does some funny things
Oh, it
sometimes.
made it there. I can't believe that, Prabhu. It's a
It got
long way.
dinged up a little bit. One corner was kind of bashed and dark, but it's great. It's like a whole new life or
It
something.
was for a whole year in New York ashram, and I was like, it's not gonna make it to India. It's not gonna make it. I was discouraging him for the whole time. I said, are you crazy? You're buying it here, you're saving it in New York for a whole year. It's not gonna make it to India. No way, no way.
Comment anything. I also thought, it makes more sense to get it in India and it's easier to return it and work. But anyway, all glories to Jaipur. I'm so happy with him. Do you see him sometimes? He's in
He's in
sunny,
New
warm.
York, so I talked to him here and there. But I'm in Michigan.
He had his birthday just recently, I think.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for watching. Anybody else with any comments, questions, complaints? Bonnie was made some comment, at least to me. Thank you for sharing this ecstatic class. Thank you, Bonnie. Hare Krishna. Understanding this ecstasy, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says in another place that when the devotees try to understand the ecstasy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just by trying to understand that ecstasy, they will get prema. Now, sometimes devotees they become shy about that. No, we can't think about that, Prabhu. Maybe they're a little shy. I sometimes think because they're afraid they may lose their material life. They feel threatened and nervous, and so that they're not willing to give that up. Leela Purushottam, Prabhu, you want to share something?
Hare Krishna, bro. Maybe in disregard of your
Prabhu, you muted yourself. Leela Purushottam Prabhu.
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't notice that I was unmuted. So I clicked and it worked the otherwise. Yeah, your last comment, Prabhu, it reminded me of what I wanted to ask even to the previous verse actually, and you touched the topic a little bit today also, that sometimes what we see among devotees, that under the banner of like, how to express it, like we are cultivating vipralamba, the mood of separation. We make a philosophy that we that it's forbidden to relish Krishna, if I dare to say so. Like automatically, if you meet with some seeing someone, I don't know, it might go quite weird up to a point, being happy in Krishna consciousness. You immediately identify it as something like wrong. And then this last verse was saying like that we should have the desire to see the Mahalila Darshan Lobha. We should have that Lobha. We should have that eagerness. And so I'd like to hear your thoughts on because I consider it myself like quite a serious misinterpretation of what Vipralamba Seva means. Like instead of, like facing this terrible horror of being separated from Krishna, we make it like, oh, we want to be separated from Krishna. This is our philosophy. This is our approach. And it just seems to me so uh, improper to think about it like that. Could you share
Yeah,
your
I
thoughts?
perhaps devotees, as we were mentioning, feel nervous, just as Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, speaks in kind of a sarcastic way. He says, "Don't go to the bank of the Jamuna and see Krishna. Don't, otherwise you're going to spoil your life." And devotees, many Hindus intuitively understand that, and they want to stay away from it. And they like to be religious. They like to go to the temple once a week and do this thing or that thing. But oftentimes I think we devotees put this kind of philosophy in it that, oh, this is too high, or we'll just have this vipralamba, which makes them more comfortable. And therefore, we need to associate with the writings of our Goswamis, and we need to associate with higher Vaishnavas. And what both of them do is they kick us, and they push us out from our comfortable situation and make us realize that we want something more. My Guru Maharaj, and the nature of this also is that we become more and more lonely. We come to Krishna consciousness many times thinking that, oh, I'm so lonely, nobody understands me in this world. And then you meet the devotees, oh my God, these guys are vegetarian and they believe in reincarnation, all these things which made great sense to me, and they're just beautiful people. Wow. And so you move into the temple, you come with the devotees, and then after some time, paradoxically, sometimes you feel lonely again. Now, that loneliness, we were speaking about this yesterday with some of the devotees in Bhubaneswar, how sometimes devotees are uncomfortable with that second kind of loneliness with the devotees, and they just kind of cut part of their brain out. No, that's not something I should think about or I should do. That's not bona fide. And so they become a little mechanical then in their process. What to do? So this process is so wonderful. If they just continue doing it, then definitely the result will be there. But we may be going very, very slow when we do things in a mechanical way. So we should always be very eager to have association with higher Vaishnavas, to hear Krishna Katha. And if we can't hear it, we should want to read it. And we should be very eager to do Vaishnav Seva, serve the devotees. And remember, as my Guru Maharaj said, that I only have one subject that I speak about, which is Krishna Prema. And when you start speaking like that, then people become uncomfortable with you. Even devotees become uncomfortable. No, we can't talk about that. And even look in Vrindavan. This is what happens with the gopis. The gopis, and nobody understands them. and they have to hide their love for Krishna, and they're ostracized many times by society. And you have personalities like Jatila and Kutila who are chastising them, and it's kind of a perverted reflection. This material world is a perverted reflection of that ecstatic kind of love. Those are some thoughts I have on that. It's a huge subject. You
Yeah.
must have some thoughts too. You want to share something about it?
It seems like, as you mentioned now, it seems to me that there is a, like, one thing is to live through that loneliness, and maybe with a regard to your quote from George Orwell, in one sense you can have this impetus to stick to your individuality. That's more or less my way. But on the other hand, what I notice, even for myself, my like inner experience is that there's a danger of these feelings being a function of your false ego, actually. Like, I'm something more special, I'm something, like, and that's why nobody understands me here around, and like thinking about yourself as something like better, higher than others, because they don't want to discuss these topics with me, and like that. So I found for myself that I have to very consciously like deal with this, because it's often the emotions that I face in the association of the devotees. I have to deal with them. But on the other hand, I really notice I have to be very careful and just not be, puffed of nonsense, like without any substance behind, just feeling, I know better than you, and I've heard better subjects and from higher Vaishnavas, and all these things. So it's like a difficult task for a sadhaka to balance this feeling of, as you say, like loneliness, like where do I find the real like-minded devotees, like who understands who are on the same wave, and on the other hand, don't become like proud and puffed up, and thinking of yourself being
Orwell's observation is that the nature of things, when you're a lonely person, you don't fit in, the nature is you become misunderstood. And he goes on to explain when you become misunderstood, then the nature is a lot of times you feel hurt. And
Hmm.
then you just want to keep away from them. And we see so many devotees, and I can understand.
Yeah.
They just feel hurt when they're not understood by other devotees or misunderstood. So they want to go away from that sangha. But I really appreciate your comments very much. I've been thinking about this quite a lot lately too, for myself, and similarly with you. I don't want to isolate myself from everyone. And here in Puri, we've had, I think we're on the sixth parikrama in the like back to back, just parikramas, just nonstop. I was telling you privately in our chat that yesterday I gave 6 hours of katas in
It's not
Bhubaneswar.
just.
And it's been quite intense, but quite ecstatic. And I see in a propensity in myself, it's really easy to say, well, I like these people because they want to hear from me. I like these people because they have faith in me. And then I'm not going to go and associate with these other people who are different. And we see that with quite a few devotees. You've observed that we've talked about this before. There's different groups here in Czech who have a mood like that because
Yeah.
the other groups don't understand them. But I think it's really important to please Srila Prabhupada that we tolerate each other. And as Srila Prabhupada wrote in a beautiful letter to Kirtanananda, he said, once a year, we should come together in Mayapur and practice, how did he put it? Practice unity and diversity.
Mhm.
speaking about unity and diversity. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I found when we went to Mayapur, we've been to Mayapur a couple of times in the last few months. The first time I got there after coming back from Europe, I felt like a little ant in a football stadium or something. And it was like a full football stadium there. And I felt really like it kind of really freaked me out. It made me very uncomfortable. And I felt I just didn't want to be around things. But then later we did this festival with my Guru Maharaj, and so many devotees were coming, and I was interacting with them, and some of them at the festival, and some of them afterwards or before, and so many beautiful devotees. Some of them were GBCs, some of them were temple presidents and Prabhupada disciples and things. And I was appreciating, wow, there's so much to learn. I had some great talks with the Nuttama Prabhu about interfaith dialogue and also about eco self-sufficiency projects and how he was commenting to me how today, especially in the West, eco self-sufficiency is practically like the Bhagavad Gita for people. That's just like a sacred expression, and how important he feels it is for devotees to live like that for themselves, for our own benefit, but also as a preaching expression. And I was commenting to him about how we're making all these temples, and it's nice. I'm happy to see these big temples, but many times there's no concept of solar panels or windmills or anything to have their own electricity. And one big temple I know of in India, they spend, I think it's 2 lakhs a day on their electric bills. 2 lakhs a day. That's like, and that's a huge amount of money. What is that? That's like how much is more? That's about $3,000 US or something, I think. So maybe Siddha Hari Prabhu, you can correct me about that, but I think it's over $2,000 for US, right? So much money they're spending on electricity, and what are people seeing? So I really appreciate projects like New Dam in Hungary and what they're doing now in Radhadesh, and the Govardhan Eco Village is the crest jewel for my of all the different eco projects that I've seen in ISKCON. It's great. So is that okay? Maybe we can go on
Okay,
some.
thank you.
Thank you, Lila Purushottam Prabhu. We miss you, Sangha. I saw some photos of you doing some kata at Harichandra Prabhu's place. You look very. I
Oh,
was
that was wonderful last Saturday. It was a nice program.
nice, Sangha. It makes me happy to see you guys together. Siddha Hari Prabhu's got his hand up, and he's probably his arm's getting sore because it's been up for so long. So let's see.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for giving me again chance. I mean, you can come back to me after everybody else is done. I have some more comments to share, or I can go
Okay.
now.
Okay,
Whatever you
so
want.
I'll go on to Gorni Tai Prabhu. Gorni Tai Prabhu was raising some question on YouTube, and then he dropped out there. So, and Bonnie, let me read her comments first. I'm really happy, Bonnie, you like the George Orwell quotes. I loved this George. Actually, I tell you honestly, I read these quotes about loneliness and misunderstanding, and I started crying just a few weeks ago. Not something 30 years ago, but just a few weeks ago. It really deeply struck me. And during I made that kind of a theme for my Guru Maharaj's disappearance festival, trying to help devotees to understand the heart, trying to contemplate on this personality, and speaking about his transcendental loneliness. Of course, he also told us that I'm always with Krishna, but at the same time, he also wrote in his diaries that, dear Gopal, please give me like-minded association. He told some devotees that I feel very alone. I have no association in that. And so this quote from George Orwell, I really, really appreciated so much. So you're going, how can we become more patient and loving? Well, I think what Leela Purushottam was just saying is very important, that we can't give up association with devotees, and we can't give up going to the temple and associating with the ISKCON thing, even though sometimes it's really annoying. And they may seem like a bunch of kanishtas or just a bunch of institutional management maniacs who want to push this thing and that thing. But we have to go there, and we'll find there's so many like-minded devotees. There's so many beautiful devotees there. And as Lila Purushottam was pointing out, that we should be careful and not become proud and think, oh, I'm some special person. I have the most far out hat in the discussion today. We shouldn't start thinking like that. We have to also be able to appreciate other different devotees in that. Let me read your next comment. You're saying here, and if we can do that, then we can become more patient and more loving. But if we isolate ourselves, then how can we become patient and loving? So you go on your next comment. I find that I'm becoming more patient, but then I reach a point where it changes over and I can be too harsh to someone. It reminds me of my mother, and I hope it's possible to overcome conditioning and or genetics rather than to become more subject to them as time passes. You know, that's an amazing thing too. As time goes by, I see more and more of my mother, more of my father and myself. And Krishna Kun, I sometimes she sounds just like her mother to me. And that's not an easy thing to give up. That's there in us. And we just have to learn to live with it, just like we may have to learn to live with Bonnie's hat. Someone may say Bonnie's hat is just too weird. It's just, but it's just. Someone came to me yesterday. One friend of ours came to the program. He's writing me some messages on WhatsApp. I'm going to come to the class. I'm here at the temple, but he never came. And I'm busy giving this class, and what's going on? Where are you? And then later we met him, and he told me, he said, I'm sorry, I didn't want to come because I was wearing jeans and a Western shirt. And I told him, I said, you know, I appreciate devotional clothes. And I understand that around the temples and for some preaching things, they're very important. But for me, I don't even notice those things. Rather, I want to look and see the heart of the devotee and what their smile is like and what they're speaking, how they're behaving. And the dress, that's just some external thing, maybe for the Sunday feast program or some program, some temple thing. It's needed, it's wanted there. Okay, that's fine. But I really want to be able to work with different scholars and different Vaishnavas who may have and do have different types of dress, and who cares about that? So, yeah, we should be more and more patient. Then Gornitai Prabhu, I'm sorry. Gornitai, are you here somewhere? There he is. Okay, I'm going to bring your handsome face. Are you still in Mayapur?
Yes.
Okay. Nice to see you, Prabhuji. Gornitai Prabhu says, you told that the Gopis' love is like a mirror which reflects Krishna's beauty and other qualities and makes Krishna's beauty increase. I've also heard that each devotee has special qualities which others don't have on the same level. Can you please share your thoughts and Shastra how these devotees reflect Krishna's beauty to each other and make each other's love increasing, simultaneously what that mirror-like hearts affect Krishna's heart experience, ever-increasing love. Yeah, every devotee sees Krishna in a different way. Je rupa chinche dasi se rupa hoy. According to the chincha or the concept, the heart of the devotee, Krishna is going to manifest a particular form. And this is a very important point. Rupa Goswami elaborates this in the commentaries in the Bhagavatam. What chapter is that? I think that's the 44th or 45th chapter, the 10th canto, when Krishna enters into the wrestling arena of Kamsa. And there's some explanations how 7 different people see him in 7 different ways. And how the cowherd boys see him as their friend, Vasudeva and Devaki see them as their child, and Nanda Maharaj sees like that, and Kamsa and the wrestlers seem like death personified. The ladies of Mathura seem like Cupid personified. And each one of them is correct. In the same way that different people see us in different ways. And some people may see, that Madhavananda, he's just a real obnoxious person. And they're correct. I can't argue with that. I'm an obnoxious person in certain ways. Someone else may say, no, he's a nice guy. To them, Krishna, we all appear in the eyes of other persons. And Krishna also appears in the same way. But Krishna appears in the Sat Prema Hridaya Darpana, the mirror of the heart of his pure devotee. And that's a very, very different thing. And therefore, the Brij Basis, they come together. And this is Srila Prabhupada's desire, as expressed in that letter to Kirtanananda, that we all come together every year in Mayapur and we discuss unity and diversity. It's a very important thing. Now, that unity and diversity, one of the aspects of it is that we have different sanghas. I know there in Mayapur, we saw Shil Shiva Ramaraj has his sangha of all the Hungarian devotees are there, and you guys kind of really stick together. And then there's Naranjan Maharaj's sangha, and then there's the Spanish devotees and the Russian-speaking devotees and the Ukrainian-speaking devotees, and there's so many different little sanghas and different groups there, and that's a natural thing. But we want those little microcosms, those small groups who want to come together in a macrocosm and learn from each other. As you commented, I was appreciating how when the devotees like that come together in their different groups, who have different understandings, different moods. Shiva Ramaraj has a particular mood toward bhakti, which is different in many ways than Niranjan Maharaj, or different than Jayapataka Maharaj, who again is different than Bhakti Vaibhav Maharaj, or different than this one or that one. And that's beautiful and that's wanted. And then when we come together in a bigger group, we can appreciate how we're all having our particular vision of Krishna. Now, of course, devotees who are attached to rules and regulations, they may point out right away, but Prabhu, is it bona fide? We want those things which are bona fide. And I find, to be really frank, that I think that amongst neophyte devotees, we worry a lot about what's bona fide and what's not bona fide, because we're afraid. Bhaya, Asha, Kartya, Beauty, and Rag are four different motivations by which someone comes to Krishna. Bhaktivinoda speaks about these, he uses these four words in his Chaitanya Sikshamrita. And he says that Bhaya is one reason people come to the Lord. And that's very, very low class. And again, in his commentary on Sikshastakam in the first verse, he speaks about different types of faith. And he says, Shashastra Avaranamaya Shraddha. There's one type of faith which is based on Shastra and is characterized by fear. And so they're always thinking, is this bona fide? Is this according to Shastra? And we should be concerned with that. And as neophytes also, we should be watching ourselves, especially as neophytes. Just like a small child, you chastise the child. Don't drink that bleach. Don't play with matches. Don't play with the dog. It may bite you. Don't play with a knife. Don't do this and that. There's so many rules that we have for the child. But we want those children to grow up. And then we have to understand at a certain point, when that Gurukula child grows up, he wants to have a girlfriend. And maybe he wants to go watch movies. Maybe he wants to go do this thing and that thing. And we should just love him and give him the respect and let him make his own choices. It's a very important thing. Does that kind of help your question, Gwani Taipabu?
It's just like a request. I have no doubt of that of sadhusanga, but just how it's working. So the dynamic of like-minded devotees when they come together, the subtle things.
We can see that it works on a gross level and a subtle level, both. If someone is doing kirtan with great feeling, they're really, really crying, then that touches everyone's heart. And they pick up something of the bhav, something of the mood of that person. If someone's giving Krishna Katha, whatever bhav they have also comes through that. But at the same time, we come together and as intellectually, this person, they like this thing. We've got Krishna West devotees and they have a certain mood like this. We've got Bhakti Vikas Maharaj devotees over here. They have another mood like this about Vanashram and things. And that's okay. We can all accommodate them. Maybe I'm not completely comfortable with either one of those two groups. And I have another particular group that I associate with. But let me not judge them and let me not condemn them. Let me appreciate that they have their particular way that they're following. And I'm not very big on this thing about bashing people and smashing them and chastising them. If someone has that position, in the Padma Purana, it says, Ashadadana Vimuke Prashinvati is Topadesha Shiva Nama Paradha. It's Nama Parad to preach to someone who doesn't have faith in you. Now, maybe they have faith because you're a sannyasi. Or maybe they have faith because you just gave a Bhagavatam class and you quoted so many Shastras. So you can say something to them. Maybe even you have an obligation to say something to them. But if they don't really have faith in you, and I saw that even sometimes with Srila Prabhupada, some of his own disciples, their faith only went so far. I saw that with my Guru Maharaj. With some disciples, he wouldn't give them certain instructions because their faith wasn't strong enough. And that's okay, they're not condemned, but they can only go so far with that. Okay.
Yeah, I think that we can learn, not just tolerate other devotees, but learn to see their heart. When we study the Bhakti Shastra, when we study Guru's instructions, and then we put together, and then we more and more understand serious devotees' love. Also, they are different, but they are genuine devotees, and we can learn from them, and we can get their bhava by that process.
That's why this paraspara, this back and forth discussion is so important. And that's why it's so important that we come together and do kirtan. And for me, we've been thinking about Padayatra perhaps in Hungary this year. I don't know if we'll go or not, but we're considering it. It's really one of my favorite programs. And if we do go, I want to try to encourage, I'm hoping Lila Purushottam Prabhu might come, and maybe Harichandra Prabhu and some others, and take part in that everyday Harinam, and walking together and taking prasadam together. And it's so beautiful because there's some austerity. Whereas when in the temple, sometimes there's some level of comfort, and it's a little bit hoitaki bhakti. It's with a motivation. Whereas when you're on Padayatra, you're just weird, crazy guys, and and there is no motivation, and it's just so very, very ecstatic, and you really come together in a deeper way. Okay. Let me look again at Bonnie's comment here. She says, down and out in Paris and London, spoke to the human experience quite well. It's my personal favorite Orwell. I'll have to look at that. I of course, I'm familiar a little bit with 1984. It's been 40 years since, maybe 50 years since I read that book, but famous book. I'll try to look at that too. Orwell's got some deep thoughts. Okay. Purushottam Prabhu, Bonnie, when we're irritated with the devotees, we can wash the dishes. Yeah, and we're irritated with someone, it's a good thing. You know, I got really irritated recently. I think Orshi, you were there also that day we went to Tota Gopinath with Damodar Maharaj's group. And there's Kata starting, Pancharatna Prabhu starting to do some drama. And this Pujari came out and was just like screaming at us, you know, out, out, no kata, out. And he was really unpleasant. And I felt angry. I felt hurt. And what I did, I went and I bowed down in front of him. I grabbed his feet really hard and I put my head on his feet. And it kind of really changed him. It freaked him out that somebody would do like that. And then we were kicked out. So what did we do? We went outside and we sat down with the shoes right in front of the door. And for me, that was a perfect reciprocation. Okay, you want to abuse us, so let me accept that abuse. That's what I learned in Jagannath Puri. Let me accept that abuse, but I'll do that in a way with some dignity, but in a way that may touch the heart of that person who's abusing me. So washing dishes is very cool. Sachendra Krishna Prabhu comments, everybody says that as one matures more on the path of bhakti, the internal path does indeed get more lonely and makes one cry more and more. Nevertheless, I feel Krishna provides the sangha that one desperately needs to nourish that loneliness. That's beautiful. I like that comment very much. I would certainly agree with that. He may do that. We also have to point out that Krishna is not obligated, and that Krishna may hide himself, he may hide his devotees away from us for an unlimited amount of time, and we may just suffer and suffer, and with the benefit getting that our heart becomes very soft, and that we turn to Krishna and we cry out to Krishna in a very piteous kind of way. So yeah, that's a beautiful comment. Okay, so I'd like to stop there. If anybody has anything they're burning up with, go ahead and they can
Prabhu,
say
I
something.
wanted to share a comment. Remember?
Oh yeah, we want Siddhari.
Oh, another thing I was thinking about that when we say about Krishna's beauty, I was recently reading Nectar of Instruction, and chapter number 21, we hear about the Krishna's qualities, and there, Sri Rupa Goswami kind of like divides up his beauty or is into like number of different qualities. Like number first, beautiful features of his entire body. Number two, marked with all auspicious characteristics. Number three, extremely pleasing. Number four, effulgent. Or you can say number five, strong. I mean, there are so many aspects of beauty. It can be discussed from different dimensions. It's not just unidimensional, word has so much to take out. So I was wondering also, is there something like that also done in the case of gopis too, in terms of their different qualities, which help us understand what their beauty is?
Yeah, first of all, I was contemplating how in your words, how lost my train of thought, how everybody sees Krishna in a different way. And that's a good thing. There's something else I was going to say. Anyway, it slipped my mind. Uh, so yeah, each devotee is going to see Krishna in their own way. And each gopi has their own unique, individual, personal way that they see Krishna. And we should encourage devotees in that way, in a careful way, not to encourage them to be separatists, as Leela Purushottam was addressing, and not to become sahajiyas and sentimentalists, but encourage them to be their own kind of person and learn to have faith on the inspiration of Krishna in the heart. I recently went through some disturbance in my heart, but I was practically crying. And I went to Raghunath Maharaj and Naranjan Maharaj and to Jumna Maharaj, a number of different devotees who are very affectionate to me. And I poured my heart out. My particular concern was that for so many years, I've always been trained up to be a preacher, a book distributor, and giving classes and traveling. But I'm feeling more and more this inclination not to travel and not to be such a public person, but to withdraw a little bit and do more writing and more classes, I guess, and more parikramas and things, and probably with small groups. And therefore, I was also contemplating the same subject that Leela Purushottam Prabhu brought up. And I was watching myself, oh, I don't want to become a complete separatist and go back to my cave that I was living in before I joined or something. I want to still mix with the devotees, and that's very important. But I'd like to come back to Puri and this beautiful ashram that I'm so comfortable in. It's so nice to very easy for me to get up in the morning and chant and do things here. And the puja for Giriraj is so nice, and the flowers are so nice, and everything is just here. And I don't have to worry about strange moods in the temple and people having, wanting to. But if I want strange moods like that, then I just go to Facebook. And I get plenty of that.
Yes. But I don't think I properly explained myself. I was saying that in that chapter, we hear that Sri Rupa Goswami is breaking down Krishna's beautiful features into these different qualities of him. And, like the word beauty itself is being explained in so many different ways in that chapter. So I was wondering, is that also done in the case of gopis? Like, their love also, or their beauty also is expressed or broken down into different pieces, in parts by our Goswamis, where they discuss different features of them, how beautiful they are, how amazing they are. Is there?
Yes. Rupa Goswami, he's given Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in a general way, but then in Ujjwala Nilamani, he's given more specific understanding about the gopis. And Radha Krishna Ganesh Deepika, he's also given more specific description about the feelings of the gopis. And again, in Lita Madhav and Vidagdha Madhav, that's the whole subject to hear about these subtle understandings of the gopis. I remember now what it was I was going to comment on your thing, how sometimes it seems like when we have a list of things, it seems like, gosh, that's just repetitious. It's just the same thing. The gopis are appreciating Krishna's beauty. The gopis are appreciating Krishna's face. Well, wait a minute. The Krishna's face is his beauty. But when we're on a gross platform, we can't appreciate those things which are subtle. And Rupa Goswami and our acharyas are speaking on a very, very subtle platform of bhakti, which is something that we cannot understand even with our gross mind intelligence, but it requires some kind of inner revelation. but at least we should have some faith that, oh, it's not just repetition, it's not just useless repeating over and over again, but these gopis, these personalities are so absorbed in Krishna that these are like marked differences for them, Krishna's face and Krishna's beauty, because there's another special quality about Krishna's face, which is just so overwhelming. And then Krishna's beauty is maybe a general thing like that. That was my thought.
Thank you, dear Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Orsi, you had something you want to share?
Yes, thank you, Hare Krishna. It's a wonderful idea to gather in the Padayatra. It would be just awesome. So I hope that we can meet there, especially to meet there with Lila Purushottam Prabhu, and maybe Gornitai Prabhu also can come. And others. So it would be so sweet to be there. I would be really
Krishna and I also, right now, we're on a parikrama. It's the first time I've ever done a parikrama for so many days. And I'm actually not doing it every day. I'm going every second or third day and giving some talks. But these guys are here for 2 weeks. I'm so happy with them. Other devotees come for 3 days or 5 days. Usually 5 days is the average, sometimes 7 days, but 2 weeks. Thank you. And even he was revealing to me, Mukunda Murari Prabhu, the organizer, he said that actually 2 weeks is not enough time. And I told him, yeah, 1 lifetime's not enough. You're never going to be able to go to all the places and hear all the kathas and whatever. But the longer immersion that we give, the more that we're going to get from it. So we were discussing about having our own Gopalji publications, Pariprashna, Parikrama with like-minded devotees. And maybe I was thinking it'd be so nice to do it for 2 weeks or something and really just have a full-on program. Their program, they have beautiful classes every morning. They go out for parikrama every day. They have kathas outside, and they have an evening program. Today they were having a day back, which is also important too. The boys just need to rest and go shopping or whatever. So
this is also wonderful. Well, do you have plan already when would you like to do this Puri Parikram for the Pariprashna group?
Krishna Kum was encouraging me. It should be within this year or next year at the latest. We shouldn't wait for too long, but it would be something to discuss with devotees, and probably I would put it out a little more openly, because it would be nice to have a little bigger group. 5 or 10 devotees is nice, but I think about 20 or 30 is a really good number. Or even if everybody's like-minded, you can have up to 70 or 80. They've got 80 devotees, and it's this parikrama with Mukunda Murari Prabhu, and it's a bit much. Damodar Maharaj's yatra this year was 80 devotees too. Vaisheshguru was about the same, maybe 100. But it's if they're all on the same page, it's nice in many ways, and because there's so many reflections and things from the devotees and that. And let me address Siddhari Prabhu's question before I forget about it. Where do we stay on Padayatra? We were talking about doing Padayatra in Hungary like we did last year, because out of the whole Hungarian yatra, I really loved those completely crazy, completely materially useless devotees on Padayatra. They're freaks of nature. And they just want to chant and dance all day long, and I just loved them. It was so good. So we were thinking about Padayatra there. They rented some rooms we had to share with mosquitoes, quite a few mosquitoes last year. You can't like close the door all the way, and the shower never had any hot water, and it was quite cold, especially in the morning. It was a bit intense, but it was ecstatic being with the devotees. So it was very, very nice time.
May I add something more? Just a short comment.
Go ahead.
Today I've read from the Krishna book when Prabhupada explains that actually Krishna in himself is not so beautiful. But among the gopis, his beauty just rises. And similarly, the beauty of the gopis are because there is Krishna. So
Yeah,
just that's
can't separate one from the other. That's a great comment. That's the essence of our talk today. Thank you, Arsi. And Bonnie, let me read the last couple comments here and we'll go ahead and stop. Siddha Haripa was saying 2 weeks in Puri with Jagannath and Jagannath's devotees sounds exciting. Yeah, we would love it if you could come. And Bonnie's making the comment, same thing I think too. She says some people are disturbed because our phones, quote, spy on us. But I think it's great because I've been hearing people talk about Navadip Parikrama on a group call. Then the next day, YouTube spying gave me a Navadip Parikrama channel that I'd never seen before. I find the same way. If somebody, personally, somebody's spying on me, then great. They can they can hear some topics about Krishna. Just like here in India, I hate phones. I just really don't like phones. Smartphones are okay. I can do WhatsApp and whatever and deal with it when I want to. But when somebody's ringing and I have to like stop whatever I'm doing and talk to them, I find that personally just very annoying. I don't like phone calls. And what's worse than that is somehow here in India, you always get these calls from somebody wanting to, somebody else who's not in it. And so I tell them, this is a wrong number, and I hang up. And then they call back. And sometimes they do that 3 or 4 times. So I have a very simple thing that I do then. I just start chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And I just keep chanting, and they're talking, and I just keep chanting very enthusiastically. And lo and behold, they stop calling me. And I feel very blissful because I was just chanting with them. It's a kind of transcendental obnoxiousness. I find. Okay. And Siddha Haripa makes one last. I've been thinking about doing a padayatra in Michigan. Wow. That would be, padayatra is just so beautiful because when you're on the ground, especially if you have some bulls there, some people just relate to it and they just love you. Even when you have all this money and this and that and the other, sometimes they don't relate so well. Okay, Raghunaga Bhakti Prabhu, last comment, reflection, question. Go ahead.
Hi Krishna, Prabhu, Dhanavad. Thank you very much for sharing such beautiful points from today's class, and definitely this interaction really excites me. The way we turn the topic. Yeah. Actually, I had a small question. I was hearing the previous talks as well, and regarding that Mahaprabhu resided in Jagannath Puri, so he had special reason, and you always bring this point. So talking from the point of a sadhaka, like how is that in everyone's consciousness or the level of the consciousness or at least their inner state of mind, they find peace in every dham. Someone may be staying in maybe Mayapur and they are convinced of some of the points, and maybe some shastras, maybe some inspiration, maybe XYZ. And similarly, we have a taste for Vrindavan Dham for different reasons. Similarly for Jagannath Puri or for some other place. And it seems that these devotees they are self-satisfied also. It's not that they are they're lacking something somewhere. So how do we see it from the, like, is it sthai bhav? Is it like they connect with the Lord in that mood, and that's where they are very good, like the way we explain Hanuman and Gopis, they're satisfied. They don't have fight, they don't feel that I have to be there. So how do we explain this to?
It could be sthai bhav. It could be someone's understood their rasa and whatever, but more likely, we may use the phrase that it's someone's prabhudatta desh. It's their particular place which is given to them, and by their psychophysical nature, maybe they love Mayapur, they love Puri, and then place of service, or maybe they may like being in Michigan, or they may like being in Czech Republic, or this place or that place. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he when he was getting ready to leave his body, he consciously chose not to go to Vrindavan, not to go to Mayapur, but to go to Gita Nagari, to show the devotees that these places are also transcendental. And so therefore Narottam Das Thakur, he sings in one song, he said, what is it? It doesn't come to my mind. That what is this going to different tirthas, he says, it's just wasted effort. And that's a very shocking thing for so many Hindu type persons. It's a very thing to go on Tirtha Yatra and whatever. But our mood is more for service. And whatever is the right place for us. I feel I love Puri, and I'd like to just stay in Puri the rest of my life. I feel like I really feel my Guru Maharaj's mood here. I really relate to it. I'm so excited by it. And Mayapur is wonderful, and Vrindavan's wonderful. It's a little, all three places are a bit crowded and confusing to me now, including Puri. But Puri, I feel I have a mission. And I've got something that I can really share with devotees. In Mayapur and Vrindavan is also, they're asking me to go to Vrindavan for some program and help with it in a few weeks. So I guess we'll be going there. But when we go to Mayapur, I give classes, and there's some devotees there, especially the Russian devotees. They're like they're close to us, and we can speak something with them. But this is my place, and I see different devotees. They should have their place, and maybe that's in New Brajadam in Hungary, or maybe that's in Budapest Temple, or maybe that's in the Los Angeles Temple, the New York Temple, or wherever. We should stay in one place. My friend Rabindranath Prabhu and Mayapur Shashi, two friends of mine in Los Angeles, they've been there, I think, for over 50 years. Pachas, over 50 years. And I don't, to my knowledge, neither one of them have ever come to India. Maybe they have. Mayapur Shashi is just the accountant. He just does all the accounts. Rabindranath Prabhu now is he's a head pujari there. And they've just been there forever. And God bless them, that's the topmost thing. So that's going to be a little different according to the devotee. And of course, if someone's a very elevated devotee like Narottam Das Thakur or Srila Bhaktisiddhanta or something, that they may have some sthayi bhav where they're fixed at a particular dham and a particular service. But for regular Joes like us, GI Joes, we may have our Prabhudatta Desh. That's my humble thought.
Oh, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Makes sense.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop there, and I think we're going to see everybody again next week. If we don't, if there's some problem, I'll let everybody know. But as far as I understand, everything's green light. And we missed Ujjwala Rasagya. I don't know if some of you saw her comment, but she was going to be able to come, but she sent a message that she's with a patient who's dying, and so she can't log in right now. So it's a very special service to do. Okay, so my thanks to everyone so much. Srila Narottam Das Thakur ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol, Vanchakalpa Tarubhishcha, Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nandiko.